Hey, shalom, shalom. It's your brother Raza Allah from GMS London Camp. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekachodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone. Blessings to the hopeful and sincere elect, scattered around the forms of the earth. Bachaya Kodash, that's the holy elect. Baha Raza in and around the form into the earth. Greetings, man. The scene is article headline here from the Diplomatic Life or Diplomat Life from your guy Tsar Putin. Slovakia. Currently the leader of the Medes, land of Magog, Gog, and modern day head Tsar Putin of Russia. And he says that he made an announcement saying all satanic worshippers will be sent to jail. Russia has recently banned international Satanism movement. So he's supposedly coming against the oligarchs of society, start from the wicked banking elite, that control the society through the hands of witchcraft, going down to their cesspool, or should I say their modern day leeches that they got over there in the West, mainly from America, Babylon the Great, guys like, King Trump, Caesar Trump, Nero, that's the head of the Babylonian state right now. He's the head in the Oval Office, President Trump of the Americas, aka Babylon the Great, which is the birthplace or one of the hegemonies of this, the house of witchcraft, basically, as it tells you, the mistress of witchcraft in the book of Nahum, which I'm gonna read. Just gonna read one or two precepts and close out. I mean, it's too long, but yeah, he's supposedly coming against the establishment that was set up through witchcraft by the wicked elite. So the banking elite families, the Rothschilds, Oppenheimer, so on and so forth. And the secret counsel of the wicked, as it prophesies in Psalm 64 in verse 2, because that's who controls the society, and those top witches and warlocks, basically, of this society right now. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Go back to the secret counsel of of the iniquity of these so-called elites, because they're the ones that run this establishment, so to speak. And what I was trying to say is America's their guinea pig, as well as other different countries over here in the West, from the UK to Europe, which represents basically the whole beast system. And America's that whore that sitteth upon many waters, representing all the nations that are under, the influence of America, drinking of that Babylonian juice, so to speak. But Russia's not part of the beast system. They're supposedly, outside of the beast system, but yet and still, they're still linked to the ways of the West, because they're all basically, all these world leaders are all basically shields basically for the wicked elite. They've been set up by the banking elite families to run their different countries and economies to establish the new world order. So the Satanism and the Satanists basically starts from them, the wicked elite, and it trickles on down to all these so-called world leaders, including Tsar Putin, even though he's trying to profess that he's against all Satanists and all that. But when it comes to the MOT to the B, which is the mark of the beast, all these countries and all their world leaders are going to endorse that technology. Even over there in Russia right now with the BRICS, they're already introduced with the BRIC nations a digital way of buying and selling, regarding them, exchanging, the currency exchange for the monetary. The BRICS have already set up their own SWIFT type digital type payments between themselves to leave out the West, because of the de-dollarization, man, and the fact that the American dollar is become more and more, is losing its value and its buying power over the whole world, the world reserve, as the world reserve currency. So these other nations outside of the US are setting up their own little systems and so forth regarding exchanging of finances. So even though you got this guy Tsar Putin saying that he's against the Satanists, really he works for the oligarchs of society anyway, because that's who set him up. Those different establishments, all these different world leaders, man, they all bought and paid for, they're all compromised, and they're all part of this new world order agenda, one way or another. But this is why first scripture is gonna pull obviously from the book of Matthews. Satan cast out Satan. How should these kingdoms stand? Because at the end of the day, you got American Edomites, which are the so-called white people fighting against, Russian Edomites, which is, Tsar Putin. He's the head of the Russian state, and he's an Edomite. So, Satan, if they're coming from this, they worship Satan on the left-hand side. So how can Satan cast out Satan and expect anything good to come out of it? The whole system's going to fall apart, basically. And that's ultimately what's going to happen anyway. And the Lord's going to use Magog, as it says in Ezekiel 38. He's going to use them to destroy the West, to destroy Babylon the Great, aka America. So the Lord's going to use their own wicked devices, namely of the ICBM missiles, to destroy this whole Edomite empire from the west to the east. The whole world around. But America's going to get the final brunt of it, the impact of all those nuclear missiles, the warheads. America's going to get the final, the full impact of it, basically, in regards to it being destroyed on the face of the earth. So, it's funny that, this guy Putin said all Satanist worshippers shall be put into jail, but they're not going to lock up the Rothschild families or any of them oligarchs in society. I doubt he would ever try and, do that, because that's basically biting the hand that fed him. So, really, is he really against the satanic movement, Satanism movement, internationally? That's yet to, yet to be decided. So anyway, got one or two presets in, or close out. As I said, we're short and quick. It says Matthew 12, and I'll start from verse 25. And Yahushua knew their faults and said unto them, he's just talking to the wicked scribes and Pharisees. It says, every kingdom that divided against itself is brought to desolation. So yeah, this currently we're under the rulership of these Edomites, these so-called white people, from Russia all the way through Europe and all the way to the far west, which is America. Is run by these Edomites, man. So if their kingdom is divided against itself, it's brought to desolation, which ultimately is going to be through World War III, nuclear war, the war to end all wars, the war of Armageddon. It says, in every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Yeah, so at the end of this whole ordeal, America's going to be destroyed. Russia's going to lose a lot of men in this war too, but they're not going to be totally wiped off the face of the earth like America. And those gutter rats over there in the land of Israel, those Satan, they're the top Satanists on the face of the earth. Amalek, as the scripture says, they're from the synagogue of Satan. They're a bunch of Satanists, man, but they're acting like they're the chosen of the Lord. They're gonna get that. They're gonna get blown to off the face of the earth, over there in the land of Israel, and that land's gonna be re-inhabited by the true Israelites, the chosen of the Lord, which is you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That make up the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the elect. It says, and if Satan cast out Satan, the word Satan just means adversary. So if another adversary cast out another adversary regarding these Edomites, he is divided against himself. How shall his kingdom stand? Yes, if the Russian Edomites are going against the American Edomites, then the whole system, the whole kingdom's going to be brought to naught. It's going to be destroyed. It's going to implode upon itself, which we're currently witnessing and seeing around the forms of the earth. That's why World War III is going to be the end all and be all of these Edomites ruling on the earth, man. As the scripture says, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, that Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob, which represents the 12 tribes, is the beginning of it that followeth. So this kingdom's through, man, and this is just more evidence of that fact. The fact that you got Tsar Putin casting out Satanists, so-called internationally, which really is gunning for these Satanists over here in the West, because that's like the main hub witchcraft, man, or Satan's dwelling place right now. It's America, man. The Americans' way of life, so to speak. Babylon the Great. That's Satan's hub right now for all the mischief that's going on the face of the earth. That trickles on down to these other nations. This is Isaiah 19:3, and it's modern day. It's also called modern day Egypt. Why? Because that's the modern day place of the Israelites' captivity, and it's also known for its high levels of witchcraft. The Egyptians, the Magi's, they was known for high levels of witchcraft coming up against the children of Israel. Janus and Jambres and all that, and the Chaldeans, aka the Babylonians, which they had Chaldeans, or sorcerers that also were, or think tanks that were also involved in high levels of witchcraft, which America's the daughter of Babylon, ancient Babylon, Babylon the Great. Said all these kingdoms are all inspired and mastered the way of the left, basically, Satanism, one way or another, and they practice it on a daily, It says Isaiah 19:3. It says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fall in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof." What counsel? The counsel of the wicked, man. The counsel of iniquity, the so-called oligarchs of society that are sitting on high right now, the cabal, these banking elite, the counsel of the wicked, they're going to be brought down. The empire is going to be destroyed. The voice of the light of the wicked shall be put out. The so-called enlightened ones, calling themselves the Illuminati, secret council of the wicked, their council is going to be destroyed through the act of World War III. It says, "And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards." And that's what these devils have been doing. They have their think tanks, they have all these major warlocks and witches that they seek advisory from, and they conjure up spirits and do practice necromancy and all these different things. Diviners of times and observer of times, as they call it, and they enter this all out leftism, all out satanic worship. They're into all that, the top rituals and all of these different things. Babylon the Great, aka America, is known for that. Especially if you want to make it in Hollywood or Hollywood, you have to be a high level witch or be willing to get involved in that lifestyle to make it. It's the so-called live the American dream. So it's all about witchcraft. America's all birthed, from the inception of witchcraft, and it's going to go out, by way of nuclear fire, because the Lord says, "Suffer not a witch to live," and that means a witch is supposed to be put to death. And America is known as the whoredom of witchcraft, man. The mother of harlots. And even in Isaiah 47, it tells you, man, that was from their foundation. The founding forefathers of America, they were all into leftism, satanic worship. They were all so-called Freemasons. So there was in high levels of satanic witchcraft and worship, man. That's what they promoted. And that's how they gained their power over the earth. So, these devils are being revealed, man. But as I said, Satan be against Satan. How shall these kingdoms stand? It should be brought to desolation. So this is the end all and be all of this American empire. When you got their own, you got Satan trying to cast out Satan. That means this kingdom's on its way out. The American Edomites fighting against the Russian Edomites. That means there's not too much longer left on the time clock for this place, man. The Lord said that, he set the bounds where they cannot pass. It says this is Nahum 3, and I'll start from verse 1. It says, "Woe to the bloody city," because America is also known as the modern day Nineveh, which that was a cursed city as well, that ultimately got destroyed, and brought to desolation through the prophesying of Jonah. It says, "Woe to the bloody city, is all full of lies and robbery, and the prey departeth not." So how was America, founded, so to speak? Through spilling of blood, innocent blood with the tribes, starting from the Northern Kingdom. When these so-called conquistadors and these colonizers came over there and stole the land from their indigenous peoples that was already over there, which are the Northern Kingdom, the Hispanic and Native Americans, the 12 tribes of Israel, man. It's the 10 tribes of Israel, to be more specific, that left the Assyrian captivity around 720 BC, and basically went over to an unknown land, which was the Americas, the land of Asarif, and which means another land in the Hebrew, and they inhabited that land until modern day, until when the devils came in 1492 and stole the land from them, man, because they already knew who was over there. Going back to Christopher Columbus and his his researchers and so on and so forth. They studied the Apocrypha and they already knew that the 10 tribes was over there in the West, the New World, so to speak. That's why they decided to come over there and set up their New World Order. 1776 and all of that. So it's all, America's foundation is all through the hands of witchcraft and Satanism on the highest level, man. It says it's all full of lies and robbery. Yeah, they stole the land. And they lied on the people that was already over there. It says the prey departeth not, who's the prey? The 12 tribes of Israel. So it said it started with the northern kingdom, and then when they slaughtered those tribes, they went over to the west and gathered the rest of the southern kingdom, so-called African American Negro, and brought them over there to the west, to America, through the transatlantic slave trade. Until this day, we're still over there in the modern day land of Egypt, or aka the land of Nineveh. The prey departeth not, meaning that we're still in slavery. It says the noise of a whip and the noise of a rattling of the wheels, and says, and the prancing of horses and the jumping of chariots, and of the jumping chariots the horsemen lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. It says, and there is a multitude of slain. It says, and a great number of carcasses. It says, and there is none end of the corpses. It says, they stumble upon their corpses. And that's what America was built of, the bloodshed and the slaughtering of the 12 tribes of Israel, man. That's how America was birthed, that's how it was founded, and still to this day, we're yet this day in our captivity and still being basically slaughtered by the so-called white man, biblically known as the Edomites, Still to this day, man. It says that's why we need the Yahushua to come and deliver us from our enemy. It says, because of the multitude of whoredoms of the well-favoured harlot. Who's that? That's talking about America. The harlot that sitteth upon many waters, or on top of the scarlet-coloured beast. That's America, man. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favoured harlot. What's a harlot known for? Sleeping around, man. Opening their legs to every, opening a quiver to every arrow, as it tells you in the Apocrypha. That's America, man. They've bedded, or they're in bed with all these different nations and their rulers and leaders, to spread all their, wayward philosophies around the corners of the earth, spreading that Babylonian juice, which is going to come back to bite them in the arse through the so-called act of democracy, which I call demonocracy, man, because it's all perpetuating and pushing the demonic energy around the forms of the earth, demonic activity, with the alphabetism and all that other nonsense that they pushed on the forwards around the forms of the earth. That's what they're known for. The well-favoured harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, because that's how America was birthed, through witchcraft, man. That selleth nations through her whoredoms. How did America get rich? Through the selling of nations, namely the 12 tribes of Israel. That's how America got rich, man. They're still enjoying that generational wealth to this day. It says, and families through her witchcrafts. There you go. So that's how America was spawned, man. But the judgment is that the American way of life is going to be destroyed, and Putin just, basically, not sanctioned it, but he basically gave credence to that fact, man. Because, as I said, Satan divided against Satan, how should his kingdom stand? And when you got the Russian Edomites going against the American Edomites, it's only going to come to a straight up collision, clash of the titans, so to speak, where there's not going to be no winners. They're both going to be destroyed, basically, man. And they're both going into slavery. Anyone that's left over there in the land of Russia, that's not an Israelite or part of the Lord's elect, they're going to be put into captivity. They're going into slavery. And America, there's not going to be no one there, because the whole land is going to be nuked, basically, and turned into a lake of fire. So anyone that's left on the shores of America, we're not going to see them until the kingdom, basically, because they're going to be burnt up like toast. So that's a beautiful judgment right there. And the Lord says, verse 5, I'll read this verse and then close out. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, this Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. I will discover thy skirts upon thy face. Yeah, all the witchcraft, all the shameful spewings of how you got your empire, all the treachery, all the wickedness, the satanic worship. Well, that's what the spilling of blood, all these rituals. That's how America got their shine, so to speak. It says so the Lord's lifting up the skirts. And even Putin recognizes that, because that's how he knows the history of America and how it was founded and all of that, man. And who was founding that society. A bunch of Freemason witches and warlocks. It says, thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nation thy nakedness and the kingdoms thy shame. So Putin seeing the shame of America, and he knows that over there in the West especially, they're nothing but a bunch of international Satanists, man. So he wants to basically go against them and imprison them. But ultimately they're going to be destroyed anyway. And they're going into slavery. That's the only ultimate future for any Satanist or Satan worshipper for over there in any country, whether it be the West or any European nation or whatever. Their ultimate destination is that they're going to either die on this side, be destroyed by the nuclear fire, or they're going to be enslaved and put on cargo slave ships, man. And then eventually they're going to be destroyed anyway. So that's it, man. It says, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee and make thee vile and will set thee as a gazing stock. Yeah, that's when the world's going to see America implode and be set on fire, that lake of fire, man. Everyone's going to get to see America burn, basically. But only the elect are going to get a bird's eye view from the chariots, from the heavens, so to speak, from the chariot views and all that, looking on down in America and seeing it basically burn to ashes. So anyway, with that, I said I want to make this quick and short, but I went over the time anyway. But our brothers and brothers was edified. Give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chachodash, Shalom to the hopeful and sincere elect.